Dr. Russell Trawl was only 1 year old when Dr. Benjamin Rush died. And in my last video I mentioned that Benjamin Rush was 28 years old when Voltaire died. So obviously Voltaire had some influence over Dr. Benjamin Rush. And of course both of these two men were before the time of Dr. Russell Trawl. Now, Russell Trawl is an important figure in history because in 1962, 155 years ago, he gave a speech to over 5,000 people at the Smithsonian Institute, and was mainly geared towards the people who were of influence in the political arena so that we could do something about what was going on. As a medical doctor in the Civil War, he knew that they were losing more soldiers to typhoid fever and measles and consumption, and mainly actually from the drugs that were given for those problems. And he was pleading with people, saying, look, I've got overwhelming evidence that the system we're using doesn't work. We see it time after time after time. They come down with measles, or they're given drugs. Then their lungs start to bleed, they're given drugs. They come down with typhoid fever, they're given drugs, they die. As Dr. Trawl pointed out, young physicians are delusional, are tricked into thinking there are 30 drugs for every illness. By the time they get to be an old doctor, they then understand that they have 30 ailments for every drug. Nothing has changed, and that's my point right now. Nothing has changed for thousands of years. Ever since we made the biggest mistake of all, 60,000 years ago, the fall of mankind, ever since that time, we've been sick. There's something wrong with our species. Remember, the biggest mistake we made literally destroyed one of our senses. We're supposed to have 6 senses, and we barely have 5. We have 5 and a little extra, but it's not enough. And because of that, we have the wrong mentality. Because of that, we prey upon our own species. Because of that, we have a dark side to our behavior. It's not part of our nature. It's not part of our DNA. Man does not have a propensity for evil. That means it would be a natural tendency. There's nothing natural about this. It's an unnatural tendency from making the mistakes. And that's part of our feedback system. So we have to understand the ramifications from the very first mistake we made. That's what sets everything else up. The world could not exist the way it is now if it wasn't for the fact that it's sick, and that we prey upon ourselves. It's sickness begets sickness. Nothing's changed for as far back as we've recorded history. As far as we can go back, people have been taking advantage of us being sick. And that's how it is now. It's a major means of controlling the masses. In fact, it's really the only way we can be controlled is when we're disconnected. Then we're out of control. We need help. We need control. And that's when things are created to help us. And that's where it all falls apart. So nothing has changed. 155 years ago, Russell Trawl was pleading to people, saying, look, our soldiers are dying needlessly, and it's not from the wounds, it's from the filth. Measles, that's a disease of filth. And then when they get that, they're given drugs, and then their lungs start to bleed. They're given drugs, they get typhoid fever. They're given drugs, they're drugged to death. Drugs are poisons. And we're so sick as a species, we're doing this to ourselves, and it's insane. Once you understand the reality of what I'm saying, you realize this has got to be the worst Twilight Zone episode ever imaginable. I cannot imagine waking up in a worse scenario than the one I am experiencing right now on this planet, where we have a medical system in charge that thinks drugs and poisons are an answer. And we do it to ourselves. We're so easily tricked and fooled. It's mind-boggling. But this could all change very quickly, my friends. There is one thing stronger than all the armies in the world, And that something is going to change our mentality. That something is going to gain back our sixth sense. That something is going to change everything. And right now, the vast majority of us can't understand a word I'm saying because I'm talking about a revelation here. You can't understand something you haven't experienced when it's this profound. You have to take a solid food vacation to really bump up those biophotons and flush out the serpent that's inside of us that torments us, to really have an appreciation of what we could be as a species. We could have paradise on this planet within a decade. If we could reach the tipping point, get enough people to get reconnected, to help us understand how important it is to correct the fall of mankind, to immediately take back control of who prints our money so that we can start reaping the benefits of our labors immediately instead of having it being siphoned off. And then ultimately, once the majority of us understand the importance of getting reconnected, we'll have a different mentality and money won't exist in the way we are using it today. It won't be important. No one's going to care about it. It's not going to be a barometer for success as it is now in a sick society where money has become our God. My friends, money, our need for money, is a symptom from being disconnected. That's why when we look at all of our various problems that we want to address, whether it's money or government or education, we realize those are all subsequent needs that are all due from being disconnected. So that's why getting reconnected solves so many problems. That's why it's the ultimate solution. But remember, we can't change everything overnight. We got to do damage control. Part of that damage control immediately is to stop letting someone else print our money so we can stop letting them use the money to control all the other sectors of human endeavor. And then once money is not an issue anymore, then we'll get this knowledge out and it won't be such a struggle. In fact, the way our communication systems are now, we don't need to reach the tipping point if we weren't in a sick society. Once someone discovers something great, everyone on the planet would know about it the very same day. We wouldn't have to wait to 10% and also and everything else. But we're in a sick society. So one of the many things we could do downstream right now for some of you guys to work on that are in this area, keep up the good work, that's to take back the airwaves. We have to realize no one has a right to own things that are publicly used. I like the idea of owning private property, but when there's public property that's publicly used, it should be publicly owned. So in this way, it's not a form of communism where you can't own something privately, but no one should be able to own the airwaves. No one should be able to own any water or minerals or anything else that belongs to all of us. And all that exists because we're sick. And the nails in the coffin happened with the agricultural revolution and the creation of civilization 5,000 years after that. That's when we create all these laws. There really should only be one law. And of course, the more laws we have, the more corruption we have. So if we only had one law, a minimal biophoton level, this planet would transform immediately. We'd have a different mentality. We'd understand the more we give, the more we receive. We'd be excited about waking up every day and trying to make the world a better place to live, instead of trying to worry about how to get through the day doing something we don't even enjoy doing. No one should have to do those type of things. And we would have a very simple system if we just learned that we were all one and that we would cooperate without having to be told to cooperate. We shouldn't have to be told to cooperate any more than we should have to be told to love one another. Those are the things that happen to you when you stop cooking your food and bump up your biophoton levels. Unfortunately, we're all damaged. Physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically. Sometimes it takes a lot of time to overcome that damage. That's why I like the solid food vacation. Because when you take a solid food vacation, we don't just cleanse physically and mentally, but we also cleanse emotionally on a level that we need to cleanse. That's why I always tell you guys, when you take a solid food vacation, you're in for a treat.